Welcome to our third hour on Force 13 Live. It's currently 7 PM UTC, that is 11 in Mauritius. The update came in an hour ago from Mauritius, obviously mainly telling us what we already knew. Class 2 warnings remain in force and they'll be upgraded to Class 3 warnings tomorrow morning at 4:10 AM. According to La Réunion, the storm has, well, according to Mauritius, the storm weakened slightly, which is, I've seen in the comments, throwing people off a little bit confusing. What the storm is actually doing is confusing as well, though, because we don't actually know what it is actually doing. It's baffling even the experts, although not all of us, or any of us, refer to ourselves as particular experts, but we do at least have experience of tracking these storms as we have done for several years. The project has been running for just over 6, and it's one of the more intriguing ones that we have been tracking. Here's the track forecast from La Réunion as of 10 PM, if you've not seen it yet, predicting a landfall on Mauritius. Let's bring in our team. They should be there already, but for some reason I can't actually... Okay, maybe there's some problem with the audio. But we can't hear them yet at the moment. We will get them on here shortly. But you can see on the forecast there how the storm is expected to make landfall on Wednesday night in Mauritius. If it does make landfall, that's not certain. The yellow zone there is the cone of uncertainty. It can track anywhere within that cone. We have our team now. We're joined by Craig, Gabe and Cesar again for this hour, as we were for the first two.
Yeah.
Hello.
And
the
still
usual
alive.
The usual suspects.
And yeah, about the new update of Mauritius, you said, Nathan, that
At the last hour,
it had slightly weakened a little bit.
That's what they said.
I
but...
highly doubt that, because in the infrared imagery, talking with Craig a few minutes ago,
I've got a screen share.
it looks like it's doing a pinhole eye, which means it's doing a...
Okay, Craig, without sounding controversial in any way, tell us what we're looking at.
Well, it's pretty much is what Cesar was just speaking about there. That is exactly what it's trying to do. Here you can see is the potential start of a pinhole eye, which is very concerning considering now it is blowing up cloud tops and successfully wrapped around a ring of -70 cloud tops and starting to try and shove out some -80. Pinhole eyes, wow.
But there's still that tongue of
intensification
drier air down to the east there.
Well, it's now exploited from the core, so that's the main thing. But the dry air, yes, sure, it's still in its vicinity, but this is going to be very interesting to see what it does now, especially if it's trying to form a pinhole eye. But there was a microwave image, but I'm not saying how old it was because it's outrageously old. So I'm not going to use it. But this... It's really going to be touch and go whether this does clear out a pinhole eye. If it does, then, oh, wow, what words could you use to describe it if it did? It would intensify, as I said in the last hour. Pinhole eyes can intensify incredibly fast, and also weaken incredibly fast and have a higher risk of eye wall replacements. But that's the problem. This is the touch and go things with storms that try developing pinhole eyes. So I don't know where. No one knows whether this could actually be a small little show of one before it, gets covered again. But I'm willing to see what it does in the next image.
If you could just leave that screen share up for a moment or two there, Craig. I don't know if there's anything else you could show us whilst you're at it.
Not really.
Ah. Maybe you could navigate to some other RAM imagery on there of the storm.
Navigate to other RAM imagery. Well, you've got tons to choose from.
There are. Whatever you think looks most interesting. If you can hear some noise in the background, that's a hailstorm at Force 13 HQ.
I've got snow. I also had thunder snow this morning. So here's a Dvorak imagery. better than Sims because it's updated. There, here you can clearly make out the pinhole eye that it's trying to develop, and also the very cold cloud tops. The slightly dark grey where my, mouse is would be what, if I do my Dvorak skill correctly, would be what T7 had this be wrapped around the entire eye, which it isn't. So don't panic. So pretty much this would be, looking at that, I'd probably give that category 2, maybe category 3, but I would need to see what Sims would do, but it needs a spanner and some screwdrivers because it's broken.
My goodness.
Rather badly. In fact, I haven't even checked that. Let's do a live investigation into that,
If you wish. And then I'm going to ask you of something after that.
Is it working?
Yes, go on.
No, it's not. It is trying to catch up.
Oh, I thought you meant your screen share.
It's trying to catch up, but it's not there yet. Come on. No.
Not working out for you.
Nope. But anyway, what was the question?
Could you go back to the initial image that you showed us?
Which one was that? The first RAM one?
Yes.
Right. I'll go back. There we go.
That's what the... Could you possibly zoom in a little bit? If you hit Control and the mouse wheel, it should zoom in.
Or Control Plus.
Or Control Plus. That's what Berguitta looks like right now. And I've got an image here of what Hollander looked like at peak. And I'm going to compare. So that's what that storm looks like right now. And this is Hollander at peak. That's what Hollander looked like on February the 11th, 1994. As it was passing through Mauritius and Réunion as a Category 3. That was when it was peaking. And I think most people remember Hollander. So, Craig, have you seen that on the stream there? And what are your comparisons and thoughts?
I need to have a look at it. Come on. Well, there's a major difference, but in terms of size, I would... Let's get that side by side. That's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Pretty similar in size.
Craig's on the stream, and now
but
click
except
back. Yep.
There's a major difference. Stream, why are you buffering? Stop.
Why is there a major difference?
Because there's an eye. And it's present on IR. Except there is apart from the size similarities, but there is minus 80, which Berguitta has, not as much of, and well, actually stronger than what Dina had. I forgot, was it Hollander you were showing now?
That was Hollander.
Hollander, right. I thought I would better ask anyway. So, in terms, I'm not saying this is stronger because it doesn't have an eye yet, not fully, but this is really similar.
Is the pinhole eye dangerous for us or the cyclone? That was the question.
Pinhole eyes in terms of human impacts. The pinhole eye is very, very dangerous because it allows the storm to strengthen incredibly fast because this core is very small and it's very, very tight. But it can also prove a danger for the storm itself because it can cause an eye wall replacement because the thunderstorms that form around the eye wall can get so strong and choke off the energy that gets to the eye, forcing it to form a secondary eye and then go into an eye wall replacement, which causes it to weaken. So it's a bit of both, but mainly for human impact, it's more dangerous for that. In terms of storm, pinhole eyes mainly benefit dramatically.
Let's see if anything more has happened in Réunion with that rainfall estimate. You saw in those last few frames there, that was at quarter 2, 11. There was significant rainfall falling over Réunion Island, and I think there's a new frame there which shows a satellite indicating huge amounts of rain falling. Let me just try and find out what colour that is. That is actually the 30mm mark. Rain rates of 30mm per hour. We're joined by Isaac, I think.
Yeah.
Isaac,
Hello,
good evening.
I'm currently. I came back to not a good sign. There's ice already forming at my HQ right now. First time since 2014. But anyways,
My goodness.
Anyways, I haven't seen what the cyclone has done
Hold on.
yet for the past 4 hours. So
We've got one or two questions to deal with first. Do send in your messages. Start your message with Force13 all in text, and it will light up for me. And that's what Devanand has done. It's very, very, very windy here, but rain is much less. Why is that? Well, as you can see on this imagery, the rain has not yet arrived, but the wind field of this storm is, and always has been, pretty huge. You can have the winds before the rains. Another question, is Berguitta strengthening, and does that mean more damage to the island, and what kind of destruction we should expect?
Touch and go on how fast it re-strengthens if it does. As the recent image I've got up on here, the little bit of -70 trying to appear up where the pinhole eye would be, but you can see how in that
if you
last
could just
image
keep that
I
image
showed,
up for a moment, Craig. I'm just going to leave the room for a minute.
you can see how circular, how more rounded the storm has actually gotten, and between that other frame that I was showing to this one. So pretty much in a way, the storm has started to somewhat organize a bit more. You can see the cloud tops are starting to become more and more concentrated. Sure, a little bit of worn areas near the eye, but these should get sorted out depending if it does. So I don't know whether anyone else has got any comments on it or thoughts.
I don't know.
Oh dear.
It's
Well, it's practically the same thing that I would have said. But yeah, practically the cyclone right now is presenting signs of rapid intensification, which means the storm could easily get category 4 status, possibly. And this will...
Don't take that literally.
No, I mean it's pretty soon yet, but the storm itself has improved really good, and well, if it continues like that, it could get that intense. But of course, it's too soon to say what is gonna happen. Anyways, the damage will be really bad if that happens, and of course depends how close pass through the islands as well. The storm surge will be the main problem as well because of the intensity of the storm.
Yeah, we have some questions. Fish Sticks wants to know where we all are.
On planet Earth.
Force 13 HQ is based in the UK. That's where I am, and actually where Craig is, but he's not actually in the same studio. He's in Scotland.
I am north of the border.
Cesar's people join us from all around the world. You can join our group as well. We do have a server on Discord if anyone uses that. But of course you can always find us on our other social platforms. Cesar's in Mexico, and Isaac joins us from Texas. And Gabe is there too. Is he still with us, Gabe? You still there?
I think he...
But Gabe was with us, and he was joining us from Texas as well.
Remind me to zoom out from RAM images next time.
Let's put an image in chat, by the way.
Hang on.
So here's another image that I can show. Once it loads there, you can sort of see it already. There's an image. It sort of looks sort of like what we were talking about 2 nights ago. It's sort of that situation again, almost.
Yeah.
That is current, yes?
Yes, this is taken I think 40 minutes ago.
Okay. There were some more questions. Is it estimated that Berguitta will hit Madagascar? Well, it was looking possible, but the chances there are going down quite a lot now. Getting towards quite a low chance. And is it strengthening or weakening?
It's strengthening, unfortunately.
Strengthening in terms of cloud tops. Wind speed's unknown. Best you could put it. Cloud tops, yes. Wind speed, no, don't know.
All we can tell you is to expect Category 1 hurricane conditions, that's wind speeds of 120 kilometers per hour or more, sustained tomorrow night. But it could be stronger than that even. Let's see what we've also got. No other particular questions at this point. But there is the system. Is the system... here is an interesting question. Is the system in Mozambique having any effect on Berguitta?
No. Not really. But the system actually... that system in Mozambique... well,
Berguitta probably helped it to form.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say yes, but I'm not sure actually.
But they're not going to really interact particularly.
Yeah, actually, that depression moved to the west and made landfall directly over Mozambique, and it's likely is going to dissipate if it continues in that movement to the west.
Okay then, well there's a lot to talk about, of course, and a lot more questions to take, I'm sure, but do send them in. And people sort of suggesting whether the eye wall replacement cycle is being completed or that the eye is coming back. I don't know.
Well,
remains to be seen.
In the infrared imagery, it looks like the eye wall is getting there, but in the visible imagery, it's still not present. Well, in the frames I'm watching right now, the system still constructing. I don't know how it's called that word. Well, getting packed again. Its structure getting better, but the eye itself is not yet there.
Appearance.
Well, I'd just like to point out some new observations from Mauritius. This is 24 hours leading up till 10 p.m. So 24 hours up until 10 p.m. These were the rain totals. In Grand Bassin it's 41.8 millimeters, but that's now been overtaken by Mayor of Vacoros, 43.6 millimeters. And Providence at 43.8 millimeters. Vacoros at 39.1 millimeters. That is up to 10 p.m. Mauritius time, the 24 hours preceding it. In the 3 hours from 7 till 10 p.m., the rainfall totals were at their highest 15 millimeters at Mayor of Vacoros and 10.2 in Providence and in Grand Bassin. In terms of wind, the strongest gust so far has been 106 kilometers per hour at Signal Mountain. The next highest is 97 at Des Moines-les-Pays, I think it is. I've no idea on the pronunciations. I'm not a French speaker, but if there are any French speakers who would like to come on and give a French update, that would be... yeah, well, that is possible. And other wind speeds, 86 miles, 86 kilometers per hour at Queen Victoria. That is the highest. Those are the three highest wind gusts in the last 24 hours. And just to talk about humidity levels across the island, generally between 58% and around 81 at the moment. So Isaac, have you had some time to look at the storm and give us your opinion?
Not at all. I've been scrambling to prepare for this ice here, and then I just got back. I just saw one frame, and it looks like you said earlier, it looks like pretty much how it looked like when it was first starting to pop out an eye, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see if it tries to ramp up again but at this point, for now, it's just kind of just existing. Is really, I haven't really seen any loops yet, so I don't know if it's been like that for the past few hours or just doing that now.
So don't forget a Class 2 warning still in effect in Mauritius, and that will be upgraded to Class 3 first thing tomorrow morning at 4 AM. Let's see if we can find out any more information on La Reunion's website. Here is the radar showing what's been going on over La Reunion, and you can see the rainfall has been pretty consistent on La Reunion Island. Looks like less in Mauritius, though it is near the edge of the radar scope. But you can see that significant amounts of rain have been falling over the southeastern part of Reunion Island. Looks like it's been buffeted by some significant rainfall. Let's just see what else. There's the track map that they have. Whether there's anything else on their website to look at. Just that it's still a pre-alert, and just to show you the warnings that they've got in effect, which is off the left-hand side of the screen somewhere. Hopefully we'll get that on. There it is. Oh no, it's cut off. Well, you can see part of it. Windiness in the south, in most of the country actually, apart from the northern area, and high wave warnings for virtually the whole island as well. And of course heavy rain is obviously a distinct possibility, almost a given. So that's the latest on the islands in terms of warnings. And if you have any observations for us live whilst we're on the air, do send in your message. Start your message with Force 13, it will highlight for me, it will light up, and we'd love to hear from your observations on Mauritius and Reunion Island. It will perhaps help others as well to know what the situation is in other parts of the islands.
Yeah, looking at the loop, it looks like it's just really, I guess, sustaining itself over the past few hours. It's been sustaining itself. It still looks like it might be a cyclone, a Category 1 on the
here's a question. Is it possible for Class 3 warning to be delayed? I don't know how Mauritius work, but they say they're going to launch it at 4 AM, so I'm expecting that they will. And I would think they'd be very silly not to.
Oh yeah, I mean, this thing still looks like a cyclone, at least a Category 1 on the hurricane scale up here. Australian scale, I'm not too fond of.
Well, by now it would be a hurricane warning if this was America.
Yeah.
And I think storm surge as well.
What's that?
I mean, if we use the warning system that is commonly used in America, storm surge warning will be actually in effect as well, because the storm is getting intense and getting a little bit close to those islands.
Yeah, and I would still want to prepare for this thing just in case if it does try to do what it did yesterday and ramp up quickly again. I would want to do that still, and don't let your guard down, because even if this thing may look bad right now, it could still have some really gusty winds with it. We've seen that in the past with
well,
many
Isaac,
other examples.
I've not been through a hurricane, but you have, so you know more. I don't suppose you would change your preparations for a Category 1 as opposed to a Category 2, though, would you? You'd be doing the same things in preparation.
Well, I would be preparing regardless, but over here our buildings are built to withstand high-end Category 2 force winds, but once the storm gets over a Category 2 and into a Category 3 and above, everybody over here starts panicking and we start evacuating. But anything below Category 2, we just prepare for. We take shelter. We do, the usual stuff. Some people might evacuate if their houses are not, that well structurally built, which there are some of those houses over here.
Do you agree with me that this storm is going to at least strike the Mauritius and probably Reunion as a Category 1, and possibly Category 2.
Oh yeah, I would say so. At least maybe a Cat 1, depending on if that dry air starts to get into it. I haven't seen the water vapor yet. I've just seen the infrared. But if that dry air starts getting in, it could ruin the entire circulation. That could be a different scenario we're talking about here. But I would definitely say at least a close call with the Mauritius there, possibly, and still prepare for this thing. Even though it may be only a Category 1 or Category 2, you got to take into account the gusts that can come with a Category 1 and 2 cyclone. You know.
Yeah, and people preparing will only have a few hours at the most tomorrow, and to be honest, people should have prepared today, and tomorrow morning might be the very last chance for parts of Mauritius, because tropical stormforce gusts are already occurring, tropical stormforce winds at times in some locations, and then the winds will really get up in the evening. I think that is pretty much understood by this point, because whether the storm intensifies or weakens, it's not going to weaken more than 20-30 miles an hour, and it's currently at 100. So we're looking at hurricane force winds definitely for Mauritius somewhere, and that will be probably tomorrow night at some point, but we don't know exactly when. But we're narrowing down the ranges here in terms of track intensity and location, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
But this is how storm tracking is.
And I'm interested to see if any of our viewers in Mauritius have been to the stores over there, and if they've been completely gone with supplies or still have a whole bunch of supplies on itself, is what I'm interested in hearing. If any of you guys from Mauritius have been to any of your local stores and home improvement areas, I guess.
So Isaac, you think it's strengthening right now?
I mean, it's hard to say because I've only looked at around like a 6-hour loop, and it looks like it's just, all I could say, like I've been saying, it looks like it's just maybe trying to maintain its intensity. It's kind of hard to take. I mean, it's hard to tell whether or not it's trying to intensify or it's just.
Do you think it's weakening at all?
It doesn't look like it at all. If it
Well,
was, you would see it.
The Mauritius Meteorological Service said it was, and that's why some people in the stream comments are getting a bit confused, because the Met Service have said it's weakening, and pretty much everyone in this room disagree with that. That it's at least maintaining intensity.
And as you could see in that water vapor shot, you could see on the eastern side there, you could see shortly for a few frames there, a tiny bit of dry air that tried forming there, but the storm kind of fought it off. And then in the latest frame, it looks like it's trying to fight it off too, but if that dry air starts appearing again, the cyclone can start having some troubles there, as you see. But right now it seems to be just like I said. I mean, I haven't seen enough frames to support that it's been intensifying, but enough frames to support that.
At this point, if the forecasts are right, we are probably just about to tick down the last 24 hours before a potential landfall. Do you think that's about right?
What did you say again?
Do you think that's about right?
I mean, I guess. One of our viewers has asked, is the system still a Category 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Category 2, according to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, I assume La Réunion agree, but they might say slightly weaker, but we're going with Category 2. That's 100 mile an hour winds sustained. That's 160 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of people are just asking whether Class 3 should be delayed or not, it seems.
Class 3 should be delayed, and whether it's getting stronger, and Class 3 shouldn't be delayed, and it might be getting stronger.
Yeah,
it's not getting weaker, really put it that way.
It really all depends on that dry air too, because as I pointed out with the east side right there in a few frames there in the water vapor loop on the stream, you can see a tiny bit of dry air looks like trying to make its way into there and disrupt the circulation, but it kind of fights it off. And in the latest frame, it's kind of kind of exposed itself, but seems to be trying to fight it off again from the dry air. But let's see.
Yeah, who else have we got in here still?
Still in here.
Still alive.
Gabe, we've not heard from you for a while.
Gabe is not here. Ah, yes, he's here. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I think we're on. I'm in agreement with Nathan. I think we're in the point between at least 24 hours before a landfall, if a landfall will occur. And there may only be, and I wanted to let the viewers know, there may only be 1 day before the storm. If it does make landfall, there may only be 1 day before it makes landfall, but those 24, anything can happen in those 24 hours, especially with a storm. And it's like Isaac has probably already said, I don't know, but you may have already said it, you still have time to prepare in these 24 hours, use them very wisely, and just remember to always pack supplies and be ready for anything to happen. Make sure tree branches are cut. Dangerous tree branches are cut off. They can damage your home or any other homes, and be ready if floodwaters start to come up, and be ready for the strong winds. So just remember, always be prepared for when this storm does hit, and it looks like it won't be too much longer before tropical storm force winds start to come in.
Craig? Did you have something to say this then?
Latest microwave images come out.
Oh, right. That might be interesting then.
What's it showing?
I don't like your voice. I don't like the voice there. I hear a little nervousness in there.
Whilst we wait for that,
we are nervous actually, because this storm is so unpredictable, and it could do anything actually. But in the last frames, in my opinion, and supporting Craig's opinion as well, we think it's intensifying and showing signs of a pinhole, which is concerning.
I'm in agreement.
Well, that's the latest microwave image, and I do take it you are aware of 18Z that came out on ACCF, just before I say it.
no, not just yet.
It came out and it's down to category 1.
Really?
So it's down at 90 miles.
Do you see, I'm surprised by that.
I'm amazed it's gone down.
We're sticking with
'Cause I would have
100
thought.
here.
But here you can see from the rather small image, I'll show it in a better image once.
Tiny
this
image.
updates. Very tiny. About as tiny as Cyclone Night. Sorry.
Trying to get the new image.
Yes. If it comes out anyway. No, it won't. But anyway, so here you can, from whatever you can make out.
Wonder if I could get it.
Alright,
I'll see if I can get it on the screen.
I'll wait for Nathan to get it up so I can
Well,
describe
I'm
it.
on the Navy website as well. Here it is. That's one of the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre's maps. And which one do you click on? There's a few microwave options. Craig?
I think one of them's actually slightly higher quality.
Let's try this one. Let's just click in randomness and see what comes up. Now that is that an old one, Craig? 2:19 Zulu, 2 p.m.
Look.
Now that is one from earlier today. That was as of 2:19 p.m., which was some hours ago now, about 5 hours ago. That's what it looked like on the microwave imagery.
Here, I just got a new satellite image. This is
I can't see the microwave image because the side banners and oh, there we go. No, that's one that I was already showing on.
Yep, that's the old one. I thought so. I'm still trying to find a newer one then. Maybe it's this one.
We'll get there eventually. That's
We'll
the
get there
problem.
eventually, as we're navigating a website on the air. I think I've just found it for you. Here it is at 6:56 p.m. UTC. And this was just 40 minutes ago, and this was the one you were showing. That's what it looks like now, so talk to us about it.
If I can see it because the side banner's in the way.
I thought you'd already seen it.
Because you're yeah, there we go. See that
We're watching the stream. Our streams do come with a 15-second delay.
That the western eye wall has definitely bulked out. That's a damn certain. And yeah, is now looking like it's going to start getting attention by the looks of that. Might not, but there is the chance that it could. The eye is looking a lot clearer compared to the last image, so that's another sign that the storm is showing signs of deepening within its eye. It's still got a lot of work to do, but if it does keep this trend up, it could end up my wall.
And Craig, I don't know if you want to pull up, but I put up a satellite image that was taken about 27 minutes ago.
Oh yes, I could do that.
Yeah, and then it's like you could kind of see maybe a hint of another.
Oh no, it's 2 days ago again.
Yeah.
Oh no.
You look at it, it's pretty much is. I don't know. It's done it, but I don't know.
If someone could possibly get a comparison photo of how it looked 2 days ago when we were talking about these eyes and confusion.
Jesus Christ, hang on. I've got a lot of images to look through.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, that's how it looks like.
This is what it looked like. This is another band, but this is what it looked like, I think 2 days ago. If it'll load. This is what it looked like, I think 2 days ago.
2 days ago, that's what it looked like.
It's a different band though.
That's when I was sort of making the brain comparison.
Oh my god.
Looks a bit like a brain.
Oh no.
That's how it looked 2 days ago, and this again is how it looks now.
Actually looks very similar.
Which is not good, which means that
Sake.
it might do what it did yesterday. The big word goes from TS to like major, and then goes back down to like Cat 1. This thing has been fluctuating.
Well, that is true.
That little pinhole, that is a literal pinhole, quite literally.
So, there's a lot of people wanting to know what it's going to do, Craig. Any new input for us based on these new observations?
In terms of if you're on about intensity, I don't know.
Okay.
It's still the same direction.
If you can see in those latest frames on this water vapor imagery, it looks like almost kind of see that pinhole trying to come.
You're that dry air problem, so you can see that
It's gone, yeah.
it is literally just being shot south. So that was literally what I was going on about, say, a couple of hours ago or now. The chance that it's flushed out the dry air, that's exactly what it's done, and now it could be on its way to strengthening. Again, quote unquote strengthening. Don't take that too literal unless you start very clear signs of it happening.
Yes, but it does appear as though there will be... It will have another go at it.
It's gonna try. If or not, it's gonna be the next thing. Pray it does.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But if it keeps this up, and it's looking, how can I say, more rounded, more organized than what it was. It's a damn sight, dare I say it, looking a damn sight better than what it was this morning. Let's put it that way.
And a lot of people are asking, again, still, is it going to hit Mauritius or not?
What's happening to the cyclone? Look, the chances are, as I said at the, not so long ago, you know, the chances of hurricane force winds on Mauritius are pretty high. And I don't see this storm weakening below hurricane force before striking the island, and still might intensify. What latitude it's at? It's not even at 20 degrees south yet, isn't it? So it's still got plenty of room and plenty of warm sea surface temperatures to re-intensify substantially, which after all is sort of what Hollander did. Hollander not as much, but intensified from a category 2 to a 3 as it reached Mauritius.
I don't know. There's just something about this that just seems oddly different.
What do you mean? In what way?
It's hard to put my finger on it.
Okay, well there we are. There's the latest. So the automated system which the Joint Typhoon Warning Center uses has downgraded the storm to a category 1, but it's a high-end category 1 according to them, with winds of 90 miles per hour, that's 145 kilometers per hour, sustained, gusting to higher. But what are we going to call it at the start of the next hour? Well, I guess we'll wait and see and find out what the status says at the top of the next hour according to our numbers. Either way, it is still a very dangerous system and probably still scores a 4 on the CDPS scale, meaning it could still cause extensive damage. And still, the possibility of re-strengthening, and substantial re-strengthening at that, could bring it back to category 2 or even 3 before reaching the islands.
I wanted to make a note. I think the storm, certainly the moisture around the storm is definitely expanding. I mean, you can see in the earlier frames that you can see a whole area of dry air, and then as the storm slowly moves to the east a little bit, it's just like it's like the moisture just expands rapidly.
Yeah, quite a bit.
So maybe the storm is expanding a little bit here too.
Which is what it did last night.
So it's just trying. So it's not only having another go at it.
It's
maybe-
repeating itself.
It just begs the question: is the structure better than it was the last time it tried to do this?
Western side's more stronger, but the eastern side still needs work.
Well, that's what we were saying 2 days ago.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, well, maybe it's a feature because
The way it's looking is that
maybe
the
it's a
western
feature,
side is
Craig, because
stronger.
when we were looking at that Cyclone Hollanda image, the western side was stronger too. Maybe it's something that happens a lot in this part of the world.
Hey.
But
I guess
this,
we'd have to look more into that.
I guess we will. Well, this is what we're currently faced with right now. Cyclone Berguitta, which still has a significant intensity. And if you want to send in any questions, now might be a good time. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. Like Harif, who says, "Have you ever been to Mauritius?" No, unfortunately. But maybe one day. And why is the structure expanding approaching Mauritius? Don't know if any of you want to answer that question.
Well, Berguitta had an annual replacement cycle, and when this happens, usually the storm grows its size, which means the wind field increases as well.
Yep.
And then the storm regains intensification.
Either regain it or continue losing it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Craig.
Going back onto the Iowa replacement, you mean quote unquote somewhat that something attempted of one. The collapsed.
Well,
Ready to go. What the hell was that?
it collapsed horribly, actually. but
Quite literally.
but now the cyclone is getting really, it's getting better, and its overall structure is, it's really good in, comparing it in 12 hours ago when it looked a mess.
I've been looking for like a mess for some time as well.
Yeah.
Since that eye wall collapsed at the end of last night.
Exactly. Yes. So, well, I don't remember exactly how many hours ago, but
It was about
but
it was the early hours of the morning in Mauritius that it did that.
in the early hours in the morning of locally in the hour of Mauritius, right?
Probably about 18 hours ago is when it collapsed.
Ah, okay.
It was very
No,
early
yeah.
hours. I think it was either UTC as well.
Yeah,
It was around
probably.
about that time. I can't put the exact timestamp on it, but it was around about that time.
And now we just continue to stare at it, I guess. It produces more rainfall
Yeah.
over Réunion, as one person did observe not long ago, backing up the satellite reports. And if you missed it at the top of the hour, its position was 232 miles northeast of the closest point of Mauritius. That is about 375 kilometers. And as we wait for more updates, which there won't be many of, to be honest, whilst we're on the air, but we will of course have hopefully more imagery to show you, and we'll answer all your questions. And not too much for me to come back on at the moment, but here is the current situation. You can see those rain rates, which I'll explain the color coding if you're new to this feature. In millimeters, the blue colors represent up to 5 millimeters of rain per hour. The greens are typically 5 to about 12 millimeters per hour. The yellows about 12 to 20. The orange then is 20 to 25, and then a sort of a burgundy color, 25 to 30, and then a light pink, you can see near the center of the storm there, 30 to about 38. And then you've got a deep red amongst that, which you can see there, which is 38 to 45 millimeters per hour. And then you've got a sort of purple color, which you can see in those later frames there, around 45 to 57 millimeters per hour. And then within that, on one particular frame, you see just a tiny little bit of black, and that is above 57 millimeters of rain per hour, which is pretty impressive, I have to say. And that's the first time I've seen that color on this storm. So if it is reorganizing, it is interesting, I have to say, because you can still make out what would be the eye on that image.
That is true. You can work out where the eye would be.
If this was real radar, you'd be quite worried, wouldn't you?
Would actually.
But then again, Matthew looked like this even as a Category 1 near the end. So, I don't know.
I would agree with that. It's
a stressful time, that's for sure.
And confusing.
Confusing. Our exasperated sighs can be heard every few minutes on the stream as we try to piece together the latest in this storm's life, but people might be sounding a little bit complacent. This storm is definitely not finished.
No, unfortunately,
The day the storm is finished is pretty much the day the storm dies. That's literally when you can say, right, it's finished.
Well, it'll be finished after it passes Mauritius and Réunion by Friday. Let's hope it's sooner.
And of course, it's a really big threat right now for Mauritius, as you can see in the rainfall animation. It's approaching to the island, so possibly by the morning, the people from there will maybe wake up right now. Maybe wake. Sorry.
Yeah.
They will wake up with some light rain, of course, with tropical storm gusts, but maybe sustained tropical depression winds, which it means that it's the beginning of a really dangerous situation that hopefully the people is prepared for that.
Yes. Janine wants to know what our schedule is. Well, we're not entirely sure what the schedule is going to be now based on what the storm's actually doing, but we can tell you we will be live for another hour after this until 9 p.m. UTC, which is 1 in the morning in Mauritius, and then we will be off the air again. We will be doing more recorded short updates for Mauritius and for Reunion. The next round of updates will be at trying to figure out when that's actually going to be. At some point soon. We'll definitely have one at 6 a.m. Mauritius time tomorrow morning, and we will also have another update at 6 p.m. Mauritius time tomorrow evening. And then we will probably be going live at the same time tomorrow night at about 9 p.m. local time in Mauritius, and we will probably run until the storm makes its closest approach or makes landfall. So we'll be here again for more live coverage tomorrow night as well. But I'm
going to have to let you guys go. All right.
Okay. Well,
right.
We're not going.
Oh, okay, you guys don't have to go. But I might be back later on, though. I got stuff to do, though.
All right, then. Well, thank you for letting us know. But we'll be here for just over another hour to talk about the latest with this storm and to take more of your questions and whatever else comes about, and whether we find out any more information about what the trend is. And what about its motion, guys, right now? You think that is still west-southwest, and that means that it's still not making that turn that the forecasters are predicting?
Well...
At the moment it looks that way. Just to tell you, at the start of the hour, of course, we post our position estimates. From the last hour to the previous hour, so that would be from, let's see, what time are we coming up to now? From 10 to 11 p.m. Mauritius time, we calculated that the storm had moved 11 miles west. And that's about 17, 18 kilometers west. So that's another one to leave with you. But yeah, so this is the point where the officials and well, all the different agencies start to diverge a little bit on what the intensity is looking like. At the moment we're still at 100 miles an hour, and we'll see what the top of the hour says for the wind speed, and that means category 2. The Joint Typhoon Warning Centre will be saying category 1 at their next update. Meteo France, I don't know exactly what they're saying, but I'll get the specifics. They did say Cat 2 at some point, but I'll go and get that information shortly. Who else is with us right now?
Me?
Just you, Cesar.
And Craig. Yeah.
Any input?
Well, not really, but...
just to confirm, actually, Meteo France are saying Category 1 as well. So that's interesting.
Category 1, this is... Well, actually, yes, it's interesting. But, of course, they base their intensities by satellite estimates, which, of course, is not always a certain forecast.
It's only what we do.
Well, yes, exactly, but the issue with that is that maybe the storm can be overestimated or underestimated. The concern about it is that we are not sure what is the intense, how intense is the storm, so maybe like we don't know who left. Oh, Craig. Oh, we are alone. Okay. So
okay.
The issue with that is that some people maybe won't take serious that the situation doesn't matter how intense or how weak is the storm, it will cause destruction. So just
Thank
it's
you for
just
that.
like a reminder. Okay.
Go on. Go on then.
Well,
What was your
okay,
reminder?
it's just a reminder that never overestimate a storm. Doesn't matter how weak or how strong it is. It's always dangerous.
This storm
And,
still
extreme
has
situation.
strong winds of at least 150 kilometers per hour, with gusts of much higher. Stay tuned, this is Force 13 Live. We'll be with you again for one more hour tonight before we go off the air. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're watching us on YouTube, because we'll have many more updates on this storm throughout tonight, into tomorrow morning and during the day. And of course we'll be live again tomorrow, but we've got another hour tonight. Stay tuned for more. We'll have some more to talk about and get your questions into. Continues in a moment. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.com, which is still under construction right now, but check it out anyway. You can also find us on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already, search Force 13 all in text. Same on Facebook, put us a like on there as well, and you can also send us a message there, or on Twitter. We're at Force 13, the handle on Twitter. You can also add our official account Force 13 on Skype, or add my personal account on Discord, Fool13 at extension 9094. Also for this storm we've teamed up with Matteo a Cyclone Maurice. Check out their Facebook page for latest discussion there too. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. This is Force 13 Live in our final hour of coverage on Cyclone Berguitta. Final hour of tonight's coverage, that is. We will, of course, be back again tomorrow. And we will, of course, have lots of updates in between on the channel. Here's how the storm's looking right now, and you can see it's still venturing oh so slowly towards the islands. It's got winds, well, we've kept it at 100 miles an hour category 2 at this hour due to the uncertainty involved. That is 160 kilometers per hour. The other services, La Réunion saying only 85 miles per hour, which is 140 kilometers per hour or so. And the Joint Typhoon Warning Center will be saying 90 miles per hour, which is 150 kilometers per hour or so. A Class 2 warning is in effect in Mauritius. That's going to be upgraded to Class 3 first thing in the morning at 4 AM. And even if this storm is weaker than what we're currently saying, that is still a good idea to make it Class 3, because 120 km per hour gusts will happen. And not too far away from that already at 102 kilometers per hour, which has already been recorded so far. 106 kilometers per hour has already been recorded so far at Signal Mountain. So it's getting closer and closer to that number. I'm joined by the team in this hour, which did consist of just Craig and Cesar, but I think I just heard the end of Isaac's voice there, was it?
Yeah.
Yes. Good. So that's who we're joined by in this hour to discuss for another 60 minutes. If you've got any questions or comments for us whilst we're on the air, do send us a message. Start your message with Force 13, all in text. Although there are no particular questions at this moment in time. So, who would like to begin this hour's discussion?
Games.
Thank you, Isaac, for selecting me.
Oh, I have nothing to say.
Right.
Well, just for the people that just joined us in this last hour of our streaming, the overall structure of the storm has improved really well. The cloud tops have been cooled, which means the storm is possibly intensifying. Well, is one sign of intensification. The overall structure is itself getting very well defined. Berguitta still moving really slow, actually. So possibly.
Well, I've just got a position update as well, because at the top of the hour we put out the position. It's at 18.3 south, 60.6 east, 60.6 east. That puts the storm 229 miles northeast of the closest point of Mauritius. That is in kilometers quite a bit more, probably 370 or something like that, 360. It's moved only 3 miles in the last hour to the west. That's about 6 kilometers. No, it's less than that. About 5 kilometers in the last hour to the west. And that means over the last 2 hours, if I can find my mouse, that the storm has moved to the west and has moved in 2 hours about 20 kilometers to the west.
That's very slow. And
but west, which is
really concerning as well.
I don't know, because it's moving. What Mauritius are right about, I mean, they said it's weakening, and there's some discussion over that, but they did also say that it is slowing down, and it appears to be slowing down again in movement.
So that means maybe it's going to start to move to the southwest, or to the southwest.
I have no idea, but it's supposed to be moving to the southwest according to the forecasts.
Well, I had to see the last frames of Berguitta to.
This was the forecast as of 10 p.m. from La Réunion. and you can see that the storm is predicted to move to the southwest, but they sort of, you know, the storm has to make a bit of a turn in order to go so far south before striking Mauritius, see, on this latest graphic.
Well, I'm watching the current visible imagery, satellite imagery from of Berguitta, and in my point of view, watching the frames of the last 3 hours, it had moved barely to the west southwest, but I'm not sure.
Interesting. Over 6 hours though.
3 hours.
Oh, 3 hours.
Yes, but very slowly. Practically quasi-stationary, or whatever is pronounced.
Quasi-stationary, yeah. And we're looking at this. Janine wants to know if Cesar thinks that it's a Category 2. What do you think?
Sorry, what was the question?
They want to know if you think this is a Category 2.
Well, in our analysis, it's a Category 2 hurricane in the Saffir-Simpson scale, but the Meteo France and Mauritius.
Do you have a personal opinion?
Personal opinion is a Category 2.
Joel Nadine asks, does slow movement not mean intensification? Usually it doesn't. Sometimes it can, but usually it doesn't. Because of upwelling,
Also
if the storm stays in one place for too long, it will cause upwelling in the sea surface temperature and it will get a bit too cold for the storm. Craig, go ahead.
The shear map is working!
Again. Craig's delighted. You can hear it
hallelujah.
in his voice that he is extremely delighted.
So,
And the wind shear is a little bit higher than what we were looking at previously.
Still in that
Not still
little
not-
favourable pocket, but it will be moving into some unfavourable conditions unless it starts pushing those high wind shear numbers to the south. But either way, it's on borrowed time afterwards. Once it does, anyway. The shear will
Interesting
soon
map.
have it.
Interesting map. The little cousin asks, why is there no rain at Vacoas? Well, we look at the map, the radar from Réunion, it's showing not too much rain falling over Mauritius. Not sure how accurate this one is. It's probably more accurate for Réunion Island itself, which has had significant amounts of rain by the looks of things over the last 3 hours, which is how long this loop is. You can see Mauritius there, not too much rain over the area. Southwestern tip and looks like the eastern coast has probably had the most in the last 3 hours. I thought we were looking back at Craig's screen share, but we're not. Let's move on. Are there any other questions? And no, nothing relevant. Let's say there are some questions, but they're not relevant. So I guess we just talk for a few moments ourselves. But here is the latest again, the rain rate. This is satellite estimates. This is not radar. So looking at Réunion, you would look at the radar more than you would look at the satellite. But to get an idea of what the storm looks like east of Mauritius, this is currently our best bet. And it shows there the blue areas, that's up to 5 millimeters per hour. Question.
we have a question, yes.
Well, you can do it then if you like.
Harif Asgarali. And he's asking that if Berguitta, can it become intense tropical cyclone again?
Yes.
Yes.
Just
Exactly.
not immediately, but it can get there again before striking Mauritius, which is why we're still being very serious about this storm. Another question: the smaller structure means that it will not stay on the smaller structure means that it shall not stay on Mauritius for long, right?
But you also got to take into account that small structure
It's the
can have
movement.
violent winds in it.
It's the movement that's
Too.
the rain and the cloud structure is small, but the wind field is pretty large. According to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, the wind field the last I can recall, I think, was something like 200 or just less than that, 200 kilometers. I think it was 200 kilometers wide on the southern side. That's a radius from the center of the storm, not a diameter. So 200 kilometer radius of storm force winds, roughly. So that's the latest. And you can see on this imagery as well, that band to the southeast there, Craig. Any thoughts on that? I think someone early on in the stream was actually mentioning those inflows and whether they're still as pronounced as they were in other streams.
Probably
recently.
not. It completely fell apart. They've probably let go.
Let's go back to the water vapor imagery and maybe zoom out.
This calls for mimic TPW. Let's have some. I'm glad someone brought it up because I completely forgot about it.
Oh yes, I like those graphics. They're one of my favourites actually. They're just so smooth and.
It's back down to one inflow.
Right. Yeah,
Completely
that's actually quite clear on the satellite imagery. Do you think that the tropical depression that briefly formed over Mozambique stole it?
No.
Oh.
It was actually feeding off of that inflow.
Does it have any influence, or does Berguitta have any influence over that other depression, or vice versa?
Well, depending on which way you're looking at it, but in terms of inflow, it was the dominant system, so it would sort of have a control over how much moisture it got. And yet the weak inflow that the depression had, it wasn't getting anything. It was getting nothing. So pretty much, Berguitta starved it down to one inflow. So that's a good sign. But that one inflow is impeccably strong now.
Long-term imagery there. When we were first looking at that tongue of dry air that was really zipping in the storm, well, it's completely overcome that.
It's cleared that out really well.
So intriguing to watch.
Quick, it's actually done that. It's actually surprised me.
It's not good news though.
And it's continuing to blow up -80, and it's showing up pixels of the one green little pixel where the possible eye could be surrounded by some -80. But I wouldn't read too much into that eye position at the minute because it's not yet. As long as it doesn't, it will be fine. And folk in Mauritius will have less danger. It will be, how can I say it, a lot less dangerous than it initially was, if that makes sense. I don't know whether that made sense or not. That's what I'm hinting at anyway.
And that dry air is still ready and waiting to receive the storm as it moves towards the southwest.
When this storm does go extratropical, this storm is probably going to be very significant.
Well, here's a thought. Given that dry air down there, do you think the storm's slow movement has helped it avoid that dry air?
Some way, probably yes. Along with its westerly outflow, which is probably the best as it could. It's slow. In some way, its slow movement has actually protected it in some way.
Yeah, quite a bit. Isaac?
How my train of thought. Yeah, like I was pointing out, that in a few frames of that water vapor loop, I don't know if you're showing it right now because I'm not looking at the stream here, but in the last few frames on it, you could see that there's some dry air trying to form to its east. Now, if the storm is not able to kind of, I guess, wrap around itself and kind of, I guess, try to form it into a cyclone again, a decent cyclone again like it did yesterday, I'm thinking that if it doesn't do that, maybe the dry air might try to intrude into the circulation and possibly disrupting the system, which would be good news for Mauritius.
But just to bring that to your attention, Isaac, it's already been in the system, and that area you're seeing to its east has already been ejected.
Yeah, I thought so, because like it was there for like 3 frames and then it disappeared and turned into water vapor again.
Do you think the storm could miss Réunion? It could miss a landfall, but hurricane force winds are still possible and tropical storm force winds are still likely on that island as well. I don't know if anyone wants to... I mean, well, we've only shown the models once and that was some time ago. I don't know if you want to show us again, Craig, for new viewers who may be watching.
Yeah, sure. I'll bring them up.
And maybe we can have a bit more of a discussion as well, because we have different people in the room than last time as well. So,
Right. Region. Nope, that's not what I want. I want to change the model. Ah, there we go. Right, we'll start with the Germans. We'll start with Icon. The newbies. Set forecast hour 0. So that's good. That's what I want. So here's for the new people that are joining. So here's what the Icon model is expecting from Berguitta. See it starting to somewhat strengthen and deepen in pressure as it moves towards Mauritius, missing Mauritius by the looks of that, and then missing La Réunion.
By how much? Hold on, go back there.
Here's probably its closest approach right there.
That's only about 20-30 kilometers offshore, yeah.
Round about there. And then it misses La Réunion off by round about quite a bit, so it's not giving it the strongest winds anyway. So that's the main thing, but it is getting some form of probable tropical storm force winds from the cyclone. And then it tries to do a handbrake turn, but stalls, and then gets pushed off to the south, tries to head towards Madagascar, but it couldn't get there, goes off to the south, and then dies. So that's what the Icon predicts. That's been around for, what, a couple of days now? It's only been
more than a few days.
Whatever. It's acting like it's been there for a few days because it's been useless so far. It's still to prove its metal yet.
It's been here for I think the past 2 or 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be completely wrong on that.
I don't think it's been there that long. It's been there for recently, but it's not there that long. Not yet. But Navjam predicting Berguitta to pass very close in the eye, giving Mauritius the eye wall. And has it going towards La Réunion, giving it parts of the eye wall, the western eye wall, not eastern, and then going off to the south and dying. So it's pretty much somewhat similar to what the Icon was saying, but a little bit closer to the islands. The crazy Grenadians. Grenadians? What is Grenadian?
Grenadians.
Somebody quote that, honestly. Somebody quote that. I'm starting to doubt even I can English, because I'm starting to doubt it. I really am.
Just a quick question before you start there.
Yes.
What do the tropical storm probability statistics mean on the left-hand side of the screen? Those are, they're right there on the screen now. That is the percentage chance of tropical storm conditions. That's gale force winds of 40 miles per hour, 65 kilometers per hour or more, sustained, occurring in all of those areas. As you were.
Anyway. So here's the crazy Canadians. So otherwise known as CMC. So they predict Berguitta to move towards Mauritius as originally predicted anyway, as it's doing. Slowly but surely, but possible. So they're expecting it to give Mauritius the eye wall, the western eye wall, but not a landfall, and completely miss La Réunion to the east and curve around it, maybe doing a little bit what the Icon is expecting. Any stone? Nope. Expects it to go south of La Réunion there, and then going southwards towards the poles, and then predicting absolute ridiculousness afterwards. Windows 10, I have no idea what the hell you just did there, but I'm not going to question it. GFS. 0 that, because I don't want to start at 144 hours out. not the wisest of ideas. And get probably the better surface, a better air pressure estimate off of 10-minute wind speeds. So here they're expecting Berguitta to move towards Mauritius, giving Mauritius the eye wall, maybe a little bit of the western eye, miss La Réunion by giving it some form of hurricane, maybe tropical storm force winds, curving to the south of La Réunion, and then moving away, going extratropical and dying, and forming a few more tropical cyclones afterwards, which are too far out. So the European model, ECMWF.
Yeah, just before you do that, there's another question here. Dragon Rider asks, I found a wind shear map of the storm and I noticed that the track of the storm is taking it towards higher amounts of wind shear, and our thoughts. The wind shear is not going to affect it yet. Here's our thoughts. Well, don't know about yours, but that's my thoughts.
Not yet, anyway. Soon, I'd imagine. Soon. Probably after it's getting... Probably either just before it's getting ready to hit, or... There's three possibilities. Just before, or during it, or after. Which, probably, sadly, the more likely...
I think it's going to be after, yeah.
Yeah. Would be after, would sadly be the best bet for it, I'm afraid. So, ECMWF... having it make landfall on Mauritius and just missing La Réunion, probably giving La Réunion the eye wall.
So these models are in fairly tight consensus.
Yeah, there is somewhat of an agreement, so they're somewhat getting more confident of where the storm could end up going in due course. But afterwards, it's pretty much a general consensus that it will just straight up die and go extratropical. So they're expecting La Réunion to get off likely, but not escape winds, so they will experience some form of tropical storm forced winds, maybe hurricane forced. Mauritius is expected to take an absolute whack, according to the models anyway.
Janine wants me to talk to Isaac, so what are your thoughts on these models? Oh, is he not here?
You're joking.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Oh, yeah.
I think we had a delay. Probably internet's kind of bad here. Yeah. Okay. What?
Looks like we're okay now. What do you think of them model runs?
Haven't seen them because I don't have screen share on here, but...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, they're all in pretty good agreement that the storm is, well, sort of in agreement with the agency's forecasts.
Fair enough. And then shear wise, like I said, I do agree. Maybe if shear does affect it, it'll probably be after or during when the storm is making its closest approach to Mauritius or making landfall on Mauritius. I would imagine.
Okay. And Cesar?
Yeah.
Well, the models are in good agreement. Do you think that this storm is still going to go a little bit further south, which is what they're trending towards, and maybe just passing Mauritius to the south? But you look at the latest imagery, and it's westward motion right now. It's got to be.
Well, I think it will continue this south trend, but it kinda worries me as well how much close will pass through Madagascar until it passes Rodrigues, because the cone is kinda big, and of course it's still lots of days of delay. I mean, to be sure what will gonna be the track of the cyclone, but it will remain a category 1 cyclone probably.
I just feel it's really got to bend to the south if it's going to follow Réunion's track forecast. and at the moment it isn't.
Well, that's true. That's why it's a lot of uncertainty.
I guess
right
that's
now
why
with
we have the
this
cone,
storm.
because don't forget the center of the storm could pass anywhere in that cone in the next 5 days. That means it could go well north of Mauritius and Réunion still, sort of at Carlos distance, or it could go south by the similar amount of distance, or it could go right straight down the middle and make landfall on both islands. I don't know when the last storm to make landfall on both islands is. That'll be one for the statisticians. It's usually me, but we're live, so I can't figure that out right now. That's an interesting thought, but
Yeah, it's interesting, and of course, the slow movement of the storm caused that uncertainty as well.
and it appears to be slowing down again.
More slowly.
Mauritius think it's slowing down as well.
That's
It's a storm that
mess.
forecasters are despairing over, really.
This storm is a mess. I mean, a mess in the sense that it's really unpredictable. It could happen. It could happen anything with that storm. It could weaken. It could intensify. It could
Yeah.
move to the west. It could move to the
Although,
south.
at least now we can rule out Category 4 and 5, probably.
Yeah.
Whereas, yesterday night,
Well,
we probably couldn't have ruled them out at all. I think we can rule Category 4 and 5 out now.
Category 4,
Stranger
I
things
see
have
it
happened.
possible. I see possible Category 4 if its strength is that word is difficult to pronounce. If it gains strength, like it did yesterday,
Alright,
but I'm not sure about it.
do you think its eye will pop back out? If so, when?
Well, speaking of
it's
that,
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah?
speaking of that, in the latest frames, those may be the eye trying to do what it did 2 days ago,
Oh,
and
no.
try and pop out another eye.
Not again.
I'll try to put an image back up, but go ahead, Games.
No, I was to answer that question, that when the eye will pop out, it's practically difficult to say. Nearly, I would say actually nearly impossible, because any storm is unpredictable. You can see rapid intensification without expecting it, but yeah, you can have an idea of when the storm will pop out the eye wall, depending of its structure and how well it's getting
Organized.
how well it's compact, organized, but
As we take a look at that new
but-
image.
but well, I will say some examples. You can see like Hurricane Patricia, that it intensified really quickly in 1 day, but if you take a Hurricane Hillary, that was initially expected to be a major hurricane, Category 4, and it was only a Category 2, and the eye wall really wasn't too defined. It never popped out. So it depends how well are the atmospheric conditions, and of course the sea surface temperatures helps to maintain the storm intense, or well, at least it gives energy to the storm. And it's practically every storm is different. We cannot say a general.
Right, then. We have some more questions. Could you please talk about the risk of thunder close to the eye? Is the Capex index close to the eye? Is it low? If yes, why is that?
If you
No
mean
one's been
light-
looking at that.
Actually, no.
lightning is always a possibility during a cyclone that's consistently blowing up convection.
Yeah.
Oh, then that means the storm has ceased.
Some of them do. Cyclone Bouncy,
Ah,
And
yes,
then
it was
Irma
the
had
first
constant
one,
lightning in it
Rick-
too.
Hurricane Odile. also
Hurricane
had
what?
lightning. Hurricane Odile also had lightning.
Ah, yes. Odile was a pretty awesome storm.
And you know, the Hurricane Harvey, when it was on hitting Texas, there was footage of it showing flashes of lightning inside of the eye wall.
Actually, Harvey kept intensifying even that the half of the eye was already inland.
Yes.
That was incredible.
Wow, lightning inside of eye walls. Well, Harvey, Odile, Banshee, Ham.
Here's another. The dry air seems to be disappearing. Can you confirm?
That the eye is disappearing?
The dry
Or
air.
what
The
do you-
dry air is still out there.
Ah, dry air.
It's still out there,
Yeah, the
but
dry
it
air.
sort of is
Freezing in the
disappearing a bit. And then you've got that big gradient there between dry air and moist air there, further south of the storm.
You see there.
And you can see how far
Dry
the storm's
air.
influence extends now. If you look at the full map, it extends all the way to another system south of Australia. Look at that. You see that? It's quite cool.
Well,
Yeah.
that influence you're seeing there is the outflow. That's how big it is.
Huge outflow.
Yeah, looking at. Go ahead.
No, we weren't saying anything after you.
No,
Oh.
nobody was talking.
Okay. Yeah, looking at new frames, it looks like it might be trying to do what it did yesterday. Sadly.
Oh my goodness. Not again.
Yeah, it looks like it. It might be trying to do it.
You mean 2 days ago or yesterday when it looked really good?
Oh yeah, 2 days ago. Like when it went from a TS to like a cat.
No.
1 and 2.
When we were
then
eye
3 and then back
watching,
down.
really.
Yeah.
There might be some more questions. If there are, I'll get to them. Let's see. Is there going to be very high wind? Well, it depends what your idea of high wind is. As I keep saying in numbers, in Mauritius, hurricane force winds are likely. Possibly the same in La Reunion.
It's come back to life.
Yes, stream difficulties do happen at times. Nothing to do with us, though.
Live.
Sorry?
This is the problems with doing it live. You actually get the live faults.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm not responsible for the faults, so I can't go and flip a switch anywhere. There's another picture that Isaac's just presented to us, I think it was.
Yeah.
Ah,
I
so
mean, it
starting
looks
to
like
look
it's trying to do
better.
what it did 2 days ago. I don't know about
Deceive
you
us
guys,
with
but
a
it looks like it's trying
deceive us with a pinhole eye. An eye a little bit bigger.
Hmm. It also looks more circular than it did 2 days ago too. More
Rounded.
Possibly.
yeah,
A lot more rounded than what it was than
because if you remember 2 days ago there was like that huge like southern band there, but now it's kind of gotten more, you know, kind of a oval, I guess you could say, type shape right now.
pretty much. It's not perfectly rounded, but it is near it to some extent.
Yeah, if you want to send your questions in on the stream, there's about 20 minutes to do so. So do send your questions in. Start your message with Force 13, all in text, and we'll get responding to your questions.
But I just did a stupid thing.
What was that?
Just whacked my hand off the desk.
That's very clever indeed.
Idiot. blooper reel content. Ow.
Now, here's another question here. When you say eye wall will hit, is it very strong winds, and what's the difference between a landfall? Well, I'll go and explain my where was I?
Explaining the difference between an eye wall landfall and a physical landfall.
Now, we can say already, if there's been tropical storm force winds in Mauritius, that this storm has impacted Mauritius. These are three terms that I use. An impact, where a country has been affected by a storm or landmass has been affected, and by that I mean tropical storm force winds have occurred. That's 65 kilometers per hour, sustained or higher. And then you have a direct hit, which is when the eye wall, the innermost part of the storm, or if we go back to the rain rate estimates, satellite estimates, you can see the inner core of the eye wall there, marked by the most colourful colours, the reds and the purples. That is clearly near the centre of the storm in the eye wall. So if that was to make landfall, we'd call that a direct hit. If the actual eye moves over land, then that would be a actual landfall. So those are three terms that I'll be using during storm coverage.
Mainly to determine the difference between an eye wall landfall, meaning that you get the entire storm. The wall landfall, you literally get no rest at all. You literally get constant hurricane force winds.
A good example of that is Nicole.
And that might happen here as well.
Possibility, but if the eye crosses land, it's exactly as it says, or exactly as it sounds and does.
I don't know which one would cause more damage, because if you've got the eye wall the whole time, you've got winds for longer, but the transition in the wind motion direction is smoother.
To be honest, it's an interesting thing to find out which one's actually more violent, where it's the transition from you going from first eye wall of the eye, from the peace and calm of the eye to the second eye wall, or having a consistent.
I guess it depends on the structure of the storm, because the front side of the eye wall could be stronger than the back side, and vice versa. And with the eye wall, you're just gonna get one, particular side. You're not gonna get the strong side and then the weak side. You're just gonna get one side.
You want a really good example of an eye wall. Either you could look at Hurricane Harvey and how you watch the wind speeds or the winds rapidly change direction when the second eye wall made landfall. You could tell the difference of which way the winds were literally, I would say blowing. I would probably just describe it as blasting.
Now, when this eye collapsed, someone's asking if it was an eye wall replacement cycle or not.
The eye wall can collapse, but not necessarily is an eye wall replacement cycle.
So you guys think it was an eye wall replacement cycle?
Actually, I've got the microwave image that proves that it was. I'll get it up.
Please.
But what it was a very poor excuse for one.
Okay. What's a good excuse for one?
Good excuse is when it actually completes it. This one didn't. This one just completely failed and collapsed. This was the microwave image.
Hold on.
Taken before it collapsed.
Yeah, we got it.
Both eye walls. There you can see the double eye wall feature. Or at least half of one. So here you can see the newer eye that attempted to form. You can see here on the eastern side, the southeastern quadrant where my cursor is, or my little magnifying glass is, this area wasn't complete. So this in result allowed the dry air to come around the storm, get into the eastern side, and cause the eye walls to both collapse. But you can see the original eye wall was already on its way out. So technically the dry air hit the storm at the right time. Coincidence? Yes. Right, perfect. Dry air was in the right place at the right time.
Wow.
Go in and actually weaken the storm rapidly.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's remarkable. Joel asks us an interesting question. The news here is comparing, say in Mauritius that is, comparing Berguitta to Cyclone Hollanda. do we have a satellite animation of it from where it started to its landfall in Mauritius? At present we do not. However, I think I'm going to take it to task at this point, and after the stream finishes in 20 minutes we'll probably go and make a satellite animation or something to that effect of Cyclone Hollanda and upload it shortly after the stream finishes, hopefully. So I'll get onto that as soon as we finish up here in just less than 20 minutes. I think that would be quite useful. If you've got any more comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air, not for much longer at this point, do send them in. Our schedule, we will be doing another live, not another live update, but a normal storm update on Berguitta at 6 AM Mauritius time. We'll also be doing another one at 6 PM, and then we will be running another live event starting at 9 PM on Wednesday Mauritius time, covering more of the storm, because that's probably going to be the run up to landfall, and we'll stay on the air until it either makes landfall or it does its closest approach. But that is a very interesting one, and the imagery is interesting.
It is, really. Looking at the recent air mass imagery of basically this is another way of looking at water vapor. Sure, let's have a look here. Right there. So here you can see the air mass enhancement. Pretty much, it's a nicer way of
huge blob
water vapor. So here you can see Berguitta, and the dark brownish orange as I zoom out is the dry air. The turquoise, green, blue, and white obviously is the moisture. So you can see here Berguitta has still got dry air surrounding it. So it's got weak dry air, but there's a lot of moisture trying to take over that immediate vicinity. Soon that will end up losing that battle once it comes towards Mauritius and afterwards. And after La Reunion, because the dry air down here is significantly stronger. So pretty much when this passes the islands, once it goes south, once it goes starts to go extratropical, the dry air and the wind shear will have it, literally.
Yeah.
And it also just go racing off towards Australia. So pretty much, the South Indian is starting to have one of them little unfavorable spells, like all basins normally do. So pretty much this, I'm not making a bold prediction saying there will not be any more cyclones, but don't hold me accountable for that.
Well, the GFS will.
That's the GFS. We can let it do whatever it wants. It predicted some nonsense half the times. Nauru was a good example.
Let's just get some more questions because we're running out of time.
Yeah, sure.
The structure has changed from 2 hours ago, says Suraj. I can see it is more compact now since that dry air impact. Is it really intensifying now, is the question.
That's the thing, we just do not know. Cloud tops are blowing up. They are cooling. Wind speed wise, ain't got a Scooby-Doo.
I would say
I
would say it's probably holding on to category 2 still.
Yeah. Just try and see if the RAM's got a new image out.
More questions in the meantime. Any data on how the intensity of cyclones has been evolving worldwide? That's not particularly related to this storm, I suppose, but all I can offer you at this moment is the 2017 World Cyclone Report, which shows not only all the information from 2017 storms, but it talks a little bit about the trend as well, which you might find interesting for the time being. Do you think that the storm is pushing the dry air? By the way, you can find that report on the website. Do you think that the storm is pushing the dry air back itself, since as soon as the bands started touching the dry air got knocked back?
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened, yeah. That's pretty much what happened. Started its own little fight with the dry air. Moisture versus dry air. How strong your outflow is in the cyclone, it determines on how far it will push the the dry air back. In some terms, if it's surrounded by dry air like this, you can sort of define the
Oh, are you showing us something, Craig? We can't see it.
the stream for the outflow, and answering the question that way. You can see how on the western side, the outflow, you can sort of define the outflow as a moisture shield that defends, sort of protects it from any form of dry air.
And you're seeing it there.
If it's strong enough, that's what can happen. If it's not really strong, say a tropical depression, maybe weak tropical storm, dry air will get in and start causing major issues for it. Very polluted that Nathan's just pulled up on the stream now.
I am getting more concerned the more I look at it.
I am.
The most recent of those frames, you know.
Those recent few frames that it's getting bigger and it's gotten a lot more rounded.
Someone wants to see the wind shear graphic again if you want to.
I'll try and get that up, but the shear tendency isn't working, so it's still teething problems. It's working. No, it's not. It's still dead. It needs a defibrillator as soon as. But the wind shear itself, as in the little complicated, the little simplistic arrows of green, red, and yellow, that is actually quite a nice feature. I really do like.
We are now showing. It is easy to use. Now
Right,
that's
go on.
current, is it?
This is current. This is as of 18Z.
Oh wait.
So it's ended. But soon that would probably have come out an hour ago.
Yeah,
Literally. So it'll be soon due the 21Z update. If I get my timings right. Yeah, it should be the 21Z update. That will be the next shear graphic update. So the shear tendency map should be working by then. So here you can see the Berguitta. And you can see how the shear's planning out and playing out for it. It's still in very favorable. It's still in, well, I wouldn't really say very favorable. I would still say it's in favorable conditions. But you can see the wind shear, this high wind shear north and south of the storm is starting to form a pincer movement. It's starting to pin it. So pretty much if it goes north, it's going to die. It's literally just going to get ripped to shreds. Goes south, which it's going to do anyway, it's had it. That's the long and the short of it. But it's pretty much interesting. If you notice here, the wind shear over Mauritius and La Réunion are actually decreasing as the storm moves towards it. So pretty much in this term, it's sort of opening the door up for, dare I say it, a smooth approach. No problems in terms of wind shear. Maybe a little bit of hindrance from dry air, but if it still keeps that problem. But in other words, it's not really got any more issues other than that, which is a bit alarming in some in retrospect.
Is there a new image that's just been posted in here?
I don't know, is there?
Well, you tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Isaac.
Perhaps.
Isaac's posted a new image, so you may as well show it to us, Craig, whilst you've still got it up.
Right, let's me pull said emoji
This will
up.
be the last 2 minutes of the hour.
Yeah.
Come on. Time is all the essence.
Well, we can see it there at least.
Here is me racing to get up on the damn screen share. God damn it. Oh god.
So there we are. That's what the storm
Yeah,
looks like.
looking at the southeast side there. Ooh,
Still open, maybe. I don't know. Confusing.
having trouble from some form of dry air that's in there. I'll need to look
River
at the
tells
map
me
better.
it's beginning to rain heavily in Port Louis. And people also want us to stay on longer. I wish we could. I feel that the best course of action is to finish up in just a few moments' time. It is coming up to 1 in the morning in Mauritius. And I think we'll be resting, and so should you, is what I ought to tell you, really. Because we'll be starting again early at 6 AM Mauritius time with another update. And then there will be more to come. There may well be an intermediate update during the day at some point as well, but there will definitely be one at 6 AM and 6 PM. And then we'll be live again at the same time, same place, even the same link if you want to bookmark it, by the way, for the live event tomorrow at 9 PM at Mauritius time. That's when we'll be back. If you've got any more questions, this is probably your last chance, so do send them in.
So here's the air mass imagery of Berguitta. You can see the dry air that is still somewhat surrounding the cyclone. You can even see it's actually getting right in amongst the convection on the southwestern side. It's not really strong, but it's trying to get stronger.
Craig, the JTWC have updated their track map, and this is what it looks like.
Gosh darn it.
Pretty much unchanged from what it was saying, although, well, every mile makes a difference, I guess. The northern coast of Mauritius is now under the landfall there, but don't forget, this is a very large cone around that storm. It can track anywhere within that cone in the next 5 days. So,
you would have thought the cone of uncertainty would have started to get smaller.
Not a Joint Typhoon Warning Center cone.
Oh, that is true.
Now, as you can see, I think they've actually slowed it down in its forecast as well. We were talking about earlier that it was 24 hours away. Well, they've put that back. They're talking more 27, 28, 29 hours away. So, now we're looking into Thursday morning.
A little bit more time. A little bit more time to try and see if it wants to strengthen, unfortunately.
Oh, weaken. But now, because it's slowed down and not accelerated as fast as they were predicting, this has been a terrible one for the forecasters ever since it first stalled. They've been getting it wrong consistently. Consistently saying it's going to start moving, and it never did, and it's still moving. How fast are they saying it's going? 4 knots, which is just about 8 kilometers per hour, is its current movement to the west-southwest.
4 knots. Wow. I have to take the word for it.
And they predict more of a turn as well, but at the current state, if it keeps going in its current direction, it'll just go north of the island. So it gets even more curious as time goes on. And landfall gets delayed again. We were talking about tomorrow night. We're now thinking about, if this was to verify, it would be during daylight hours of Thursday morning. Questions, as I said before we finish up.
Posted some new images.
Will we do another tropical weather bulletin this week?
Good lord.
That I've not planned for at this point. But if the storm is closing in on landfall tomorrow evening, and we get to this time of evening, we will stay on the air. And will the eye reappear? Well, it's trying to.
Trying its damnedest. The best we could put it is that it is trying its damnedest to reappear.
And there's another image from Isaac that he's just posted.
But you can see there, the way that this thing has set up in terms of its moisture, it's become as earlier that it has gotten more compact. That's also as a result of the dry air packing it. It's caused it to pretty much go into its own little ball and try and generate as much moisture around it as it can. Once the dry air completely
Uploaded a farther one too.
I'm sorry?
More trouble.
You done another one?
I uploaded one that's far. I uploaded another one that's farther away,
right.
so that you can see the atmosphere it's in.
Yeah. Is this storm going to cause power outages?
But
probably.
You're dealing with winds that are over gale force strength, so some power
And
issues.
Isaac, is that image from EUMETSAT?
No, it's that. Yeah, I think so actually.
EUMETSAT.
I believe it's about. I think it's 30 minutes old now. But in that image, you could see the dry air to its southwest, and then all the moisture to its north and east. And since it's becoming kind of more circular, that's kind of bad because that means it kind of could fight off the wind shear. But if it does what it did earlier, yesterday night and this morning, and kind of going to an hour placement cycle that fails, then that could change drastically. So really keep tabs on their system is really all I could say. And listen to your local officials like Met Service. They have great stuff over there, great preparation advice for you.
Ask people in Mauritius.
Yeah. Well, they have great advice for storm preparation in terms of storm tracking. I don't know.
All right. Anyone else for final comment tonight?
Not
No?
really.
I'm late for the show. That's what my comment
Orlando's late for the show. Hello. Anything you wanted to say?
Personally, I think this storm has been pretty hard to pinpoint on where it's going and what it's been doing, because so far it's been just getting forecasters so wrong.
All right. And Cesar, anything quickly? Maybe?
Well, not really. Just hoping that the people in Mauritius are prepared for this storm, because we really don't know how strong we'll get. But overall, the storm has improved, so it means that it's a potential dangerous situation for